Hi guys, today I want to talk to you about how to keep your training moving forward, or maybe that's not even the right word, maybe just what to do when you don't have the energy to train. So, when you're not feeling well enough to train, how to keep your training moving forward, some tips to kind of keep that momentum going, how to handle those times, stuff like that. One of the most challenging pieces of being especially an owner trainer, is that you are trying to balance your own health with your dog's training. And so, what I want to cover today is some tips for that because this comes up constantly for me everywhere. We talk about this in the academy a lot. We talk about this in our free Facebook group a lot. We get questions about this a lot, and for good reason because balancing your dog's training with your health can definitely be challenging. So, before we get too far into like actual tips and what to do and how to train and what to focus on when you do have limited energy, the first thing I want to make sure we cover is that take days off when you need them. Okay? It is completely okay for you to take time off because you physically or emotionally or mentally or whatever, if you truly need the time off, you should absolutely take the time off. And I know people get worried about this. They worry about it setting their dog's training back. They worry about all of that kind of stuff. But the honest thing is that if you need the time off, you need to take it because your health is more important than your dog's training, okay? And your dog's training is more resilient than you're giving it credit for. So even if you have to take a whole bunch of time off and it sets your training back a little bit, when you get back into training, you're going to get it pushed forward again. This is one of the reasons why it takes time to train a service dog. So not only is there all the hours and all the time of the actual training, we also need our dogs to be 2 years old before they can, in my opinion, be considered a fully trained service dog. And I have videos on this I've talked about in the past. I'll put a link in the description of this video. Until your dog is 2, he's not an adult anyway. And so he needs time off and he needs to grow up and all of that stuff. So, again, when you need to take days off, do it. Take days off when you need them. Okay, I want to make sure we're all on the same page here. This is totally okay for you to do. So then, only you can know if you really need to take the day or the week or the month or fill in the blank amount of time. Only you can know if you really need that time totally off or if you can implement these other tips and keep your training moving forward. And that's something only you can decide. So, when it does come to how do we train when we're not feeling well, how do we keep the training moving forward, all of those kinds of stuff, let's get into that. First, we want to prioritize our training and remember that it is okay for you to drop your plan. So I know we talk a lot about planning in the dog training world, and I talk about how to create week training plans and things like that inside our academy. And if that's the kind of video you guys would be interested in, let me know in the comments, and I can certainly do a video for you on how I create a training plan for our dogs. But when you're not feeling well, it is okay to drop that plan. Don't worry about the fact that your plan said you were going to train X amount of time and you were going to do these things and now you don't have the energy to do it. That's okay. Okay, it's all right to drop the plan. Now, when you do make your plans, whether you're doing this weekly, every other week, every month, whatever the amount of time is, you should be making training plans of some kind. And like I said, I'm happy to show you guys how I do my planning process if you'd like to see it. But I always choose 1 to 3 priorities each week and then focus on just those if you have to drop everything else. So when I go to create a weekly training plan, like these are the things we're going to train and this is how it went last week, and I do that kind of review and planning process, I always choose 1 to 3 priorities. So these are the things that are at the top of my list. These are the most important things that we work on this week. And then if something comes up where I can't do the whole plan, I'm going to just fall back to my priorities, 1 to 3 of these, right? So it might be working on focus, it might be teaching a sit, it might be teaching whatever it is. But if you already know what those priorities are for the week, you have something to fall back on. So if you only have 5 minutes to train today because that's the only amount of energy you have, you already know where those 5 minutes should go to because you already knew what your priorities were for the week. So when it comes to choosing your priorities, right, which things are the most important to your life with your dog, any significant training challenge that you're working through, or any important task that you're working on. And we're going to go through this a little bit here. Those are generally what I'm going to consider to be priorities. Okay, so anything that could truly be a risk for washing my dog out. If I have a more advanced dog and we're working on a task, that might be important. And anything that has to do with me living with my dog, because you guys know you have to be able to live with your dog before you can do anything else, right? So first, like let's say maybe if you have a puppy, my priority for you would be to try to create one new and good experience every day. Because if you have a puppy 8 to sort of 16 weeks, that socialization piece is really important. We really want to be creating new, novel experiences for our puppies, teaching them that new things are good. And I have other videos on that that you can find that I can put in the description of this video as well. So if I have a puppy, then that socialization piece is going to be my priority. Now, even if you don't have the energy or the ability for whatever reason to go take your puppy off your property for a socialization trip, there are lots of things you can do at home to create something new for your puppy. And like I said, I have videos on that. So that's, if I have a puppy, that's going to be a super big priority. House manners are another one. So if you have a dog, you have to be able to live with your dog, right? So if you have a dog who's chasing your cat or stealing things off the counter or barking or not sitting still or whatever your big priorities are for you to be able to live with your dog, then those are going to be my go-to things. So for example, for Leo, when I was sick about a month ago, I was totally sick. No training happened for like 8 days. My priority with him was simply anything that have impacted our house manners. So for him, it's always sitting still because he's very busy adolescent. So we really were working on sitting still, and I'll kind of talk about how we did that here in a minute. If you have focus or healing issues, this is something that I'm going to have you prioritize. So even if you can't go out to practice healing because you're not feeling well enough for it, 2 minutes of practicing healing in the house is still something really great to focus on if that's one of the challenges you're having. Focus, for example, we might do offered eye contact, or we might do leave it training, something in the house that's, kind of, even though we're not being able to do our full training, we're still practicing pieces of these two skills. So if I have a puppy, socialization. If I have any kind of house manners going on, that's where I want you to put your extra energy. Focus or healing tends to be a big one. And if you're really struggling with those, then even if you can just do 1 minute, 2 minutes of that practice, that's going to keep your training moving forward. Like I said, if you're in the middle of a task, then practice that. So if you have a slightly more advanced dog and you're working on alerts, or you're working on deep pressure therapy, or you're working on something like that, and none of the things I've already mentioned are a problem, so healing is going well, focus is going well, it's not a puppy, that kind of thing, then I would be like, okay, are you in the middle of a task? Then that's probably the thing that we want to keep moving on, right? So again, basically, what behavior is the most important thing or the most important challenge that you're having? Use whatever energy you do have for that. So when you're not feeling well, I find that we actually, most handlers, but not all, and again, this is where you have to decide, do you really need today totally off? Or do you have the energy for a 3-minute training session? And only you can know that. And if you need the day off, take the day off, or the week, or whatever the amount of time is. But I do find that a lot of my handlers actually can do 1 or 2 very short training sessions throughout the day, even when they're in the middle of flare-ups or injuries or something like that. So keep your sessions really short. One way I have my handlers do this is 3 piles of 10 treats. So I will literally have my handlers in the morning put 3 piles of 10 treats on their counter and just try to go through those throughout the day. So in the morning, you do 10 treats for healing or DPT or whatever that priority you set was. And then in the afternoon, you do 10 treats. And then in the evening, you do 10 treats can go by in a minute. It can go 1 to 3 minutes, you can get rid of 10 treats. And I do find that most of my handlers actually can do that. And it does help. It does keep your training moving a little bit. It does help prevent those backslides that can happen when we do have to take the time totally off, which again, you should do if you need to. So 3 piles of 10 treats. Also, while your food is in the microwave, this is a great time to train. if your food is in the microwave for 90 seconds, pick up your treats and do 90 seconds worth of training. During commercial breaks, if you're watching a TV show and there's a commercial pops on, even if you're watching Hulu and the commercial break is only like 90 seconds, again, those super short training sessions can really come in handy. Have to take your dog out to go to the bathroom? They all have to go to the bathroom a few times a day. Maybe every time your dog comes back in from going to the bathroom, you do 5 or 10 treats on whatever that priority that you set was. These are some easy ways to mix in some really short training sessions into your day. And those really short training sessions should not be underestimated. They can be very, very powerful when used effectively. Some other tips for when you're not able to train is to remember that if you keep food or treats on you at all times, you can still reinforce good stuff. So this is what I did when I was sick with Leo. I just had my treat pouch on me while I was sitting on the couch sick. And when he was laying down calmly, I could give him a treat. When I called him in from outside, I could give him a treat. When he watched the cat walk by, instead of trying to get the cat to play, I could give him a treat. But I could reinforce that throughout the day without a whole lot of extra energy on my part. Another thing that you can certainly do is have food dispensing toys or frozen Kongs ready to go. And this can just help keep your dog busy. So especially if you have a puppy or an adolescent who needs things to do. If you have a handful of food dispensing toys in your closet, you can pull those out whenever you need them. If you can have a handful of frozen Kongs in your freezer, you can pull those out to give your dog something to do. Call in help if you need it. So if if you're really not feeling well, call, and you have a support system, have somebody else take your dog out for bathroom breaks. Have somebody else play fetch with your dog. Have somebody else practice a few easy behaviors like, sit down, stay. Those really easy ones that your dog already knows. Now, if you would like a separate video on how to really utilize a helper, like I said, we can do that as well. Just put that in the comments. But generally speaking, if you follow my program, I always have my students walk. And we talk about this a lot in the academy. We talk about this in the Freedom Walks video that you can find on this page. I always have my students walk their dogs on a harness if they're not practicing heeling. So that your dog knows, the harness says, okay, you're free to move around a little bit, sniff the ground. They still shouldn't be pulling, but they get a little more freedom of movement, whereas when we have the leash hooked to the collar, they should be in heel position. So if I'm going to use a helper, I'm going to have them walk my dog on a harness. If I am working on reactivity or fear of any kind, I'm going to give my helper very specific instructions to avoid those situations, not to train through it, just to avoid it completely. I might have my helper do, like I said, 3 minutes of sit, down, stay, come. Any behaviors that's really easy for your dog. This can work out really well. Another thing that I forgot to put on the slides is just finding moments throughout the day to ask your dog for a behavior and reinforce him. So if you have a fenced-in yard and you're going to just be opening the door to let your dog out to go to the bathroom, then when you do that, ask them for a sit or ask them for a down. And then open the door. Well, we got at least a couple behaviors in there, right? If you have a rule in your house where your dog is only allowed on the couch when invited, use that as a moment to ask for a couple behaviors. Before you put the food dispensing toy down or the bowl of dog food down, ask your dog for a couple behaviors. Just find those little moments throughout the day where you can just cue one or two behaviors and then reinforce your dog with some type of real life reinforcer. And the more that you do these little teensy tiny things throughout the day, they do add up and they do help, like I said, either keep that momentum going or help prevent any sort of backslide from the fact that you aren't doing a whole lot of training. Now, my biggest tip for you really is to learn to be an efficient trainer because you're going to get more done in shorter periods of time. So one of the things that I'm a huge proponent of, as any of my students can tell you, or if you've been hanging around me for a while, is having really good training mechanics and good physical training skills, which looks different on everybody. So, depending on any physical limitation you have, doesn't mean you have to have the exact same physical training skill I have, okay? But having good, clean training mechanics, being a good trainer, means that you're going to get more done in shorter periods of time. So you can get If you're a really good trainer, you can get a lot done in 5 minutes. If you're a really sloppy trainer, you're not going to get very much done in 5 minutes because you're spending a lot of time confusing your dog. Learn to train. You can learn to train while you're seated. So one of the big things I love about clicker training, although you can clicker train without a clicker, you can use a verbal marker. One of the things I love about clicker training and shaping in general is that you can teach your dog, if you're good at it, to do anything he's physically or mentally capable of doing without you even needing to stand up. Which means depending on how your health issues, flare-ups, or whatever are presenting themselves in the moment, you can sit and train your dog. You don't have to get up, you don't have to move around or anything like that. You'll also lose less ground when you do take time off. So one of the things I've also noticed is that dogs with really clean, good, effective trainers remember longer. So when you do have to, you don't have a choice, you have to take a week or 2 or 3 off, you will have less backslide if you are a good, clean trainer than you will if you are not. So this is something that I am a huge, huge proponent of. Now, if you haven't heard, starting next week, so on Tuesday, what is that? Let me look at the date. October 27th, I'm going to start our next free 4-part workshop. And this is going to be all about clean, effective, efficient training skills for owner trainers so that you can learn to be that clean and efficient and effective trainer that I've been talking about here. Because I really do think that along with the other tips we've covered here, the most important thing that you can do along this whole service dog training journey is learn to be an efficient and effective trainer. Because not only will it help your dog learn faster and you'll move through this with a whole lot with fewer challenges, when you do end up needing to train less or take time off, you're going to see huge benefits there. So that is coming on Tuesday, the 27th. It will be inside our free Facebook Train Your Service Dog with Confidence. So all you have to do to watch those videos live is to be a member of the group. More details will be coming out over the weekend. And of course, replays will be available afterwards and everything like that. So those are kind of my biggest my biggest tips. So remember, take time off, come up with some priorities. Really short training sessions are not a waste of time. I see that a lot. People are like, oh, I only have the energy to do a 2-minute training session. I guess I'll just skip it. But 2-minute training sessions add up and they are better than nothing. I swear to you, they are better than nothing. Reinforcing your dog throughout the day, using a helper if you need to, and learning to be a really good and effective trainer. These are the top things that you can do to help you get through those periods where you have to train less or not at all. So, like I said, I will make sure that in the description of this video is a link or two on socialization because there's a lot, if you have a young dog, there is a lot that you can do right from home. And we actually have our free puppy workshop, which is the replays are available. I'll put the link to that in the description of this video as well. So if you have a puppy, right now we actually have our 3-part workshop all about raising and training a service dog puppy that has a lot of information in there. And then I will put the link to our Facebook group, and I feel like there was another link I promised you, and I will find it, and I will put it in the description of this video. If you have any questions, you guys can let us know. And then if you want videos on helpers, on how to utilize a helper better, or how to set up a good training plan, things like that, let me know. We can put a video together for that as well. So if you have any questions, like I said, put them in the comments of this video. If you like this video, if you found it helpful, make sure to hit that like button and share this video anywhere that other owner trainers might find it helpful. And I hope to see you on Tuesday, the 27th, for our first live workshop. That will be at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. So I'm going to go through these comments really quick and see if anybody had any questions about any of the things that we covered today. So Robin pointed out, she said, in my experience, time off is still training. The dog will learn that this is normal. And I think that that's absolutely true. So one of the things that we do need to be working on with our service dogs is how to take time off, how to be bored for a few days at a time, that this is a part of normal life. And by carrying food, one of the tips I gave you today, remember, was having access to food reinforcers when you're not feeling well can really help your dogs do that because you can actually just reinforce them for laying around doing nothing and really build that understanding of this is normal. TJ mentions relax on a mat while watching TV. Stuff like that is a great idea. So you can practice relax on a mat, or stay on a dog bed while you're sitting still watching TV, trying to start feeling better. And yes, socialization while housebound, that is definitely a training challenge. So I'm going to make sure that there are a couple of links in the description of this video. Like I said, I have a video on socialization. I did that one right at the beginning of all of the COVID shutdowns. And that has all kinds of information on socialization right from home. And then, like I said, I will also put the link to our 4-part puppy workshop in the description here as well. Okay. So TJ mentions here too that they have difficult with family following the same cues and allowing the dog to pull. So if you're using a helper, and like I said, I can do a separate video on using a helper because that is probably something that it does need its own video for. However, one of the reasons that it's really important that if you're going to have a helper walk your dog, that they are using a harness instead of hooking it to the collar is because that harness will help to distinguish. So even though they're allowing your dog to pull a little bit, at least it was on a harness and it's not screwing up your collar cues, which is something I talk about a lot in our academy, is actually using your collar as a cue so your dog knows how to heel and when to heel and things like that. And also do remember that while we want to, primarily we only want to utilize helpers that are going to keep our dogs safe and happy. So we cannot use a helper who is going to ruin, undo socialization or undo confidence, things like that. But if we do have a helper who allows the dog to pull, dogs will absolutely learn they're allowed to pull with that person, but not with this person. And so, I used to see that all the time as a pet dog trainer where somebody would bring a dog in, he walks great for mom, pulls for dad, something like that. So they will learn different people have different rules. It's not ideal, but sometimes life isn't ideal. And we just have to work with what we have, especially as an owner trainer dealing with some type of disability or health issue. You have to do the best with what you have. And if that means a helper who's happy to help you with your dog, but they're not doing it ideally, as long as everybody's being kept safe and they are not undermining something like confidence or something like that, we have to do the best with what we have. Okay. So Lawrence wants to know, when it comes to training good house manners, should a service dog in training learn to only sleep in crates and not on your personal bed when you need a break? So this is going to be completely up to you. This is a personal preference on whether you want your dog to sleep in a crate or in a bed. Now, the warning there is that if you're going to let your service dog in training sleep in your bed with you, make sure that they are already house trained, that they're not chewing on stuff, things like that. I think that it is a good idea, even if you are going to let your dog sleep out with you, if your long-term plan is to allow your dog to sleep in your bedroom or on your bed with you, I think it's a good idea to occasionally still have them sleep in their crates so that they aren't stressed when it does have to happen. So I personally don't like our service dogs to get into too big of a routine, where we go to bed at the same time, we get up at the same time, we eat at the same time. I always sleep in this room with that blanket, because most disabilities are not going to be that predictable. Right? I mean, we need our service dogs to be able to do things like, I need you to sleep in your crate tonight and I need you to not be upset about it. Or I need you to, walk with somebody else. Or I needed to sleep in this morning so you couldn't eat at our normal 6 o'clock a.m. We want our dogs to be resilient to that and to be okay with that. So I like to vary my routine, including feeding times, training times, walking times, and sleeping, so that they're comfortable sleeping in different rooms of the house, in different crates, stuff like that. Okay. I'm just seeing if I had any other questions. Okay. So, if you do have questions, like I said, you can always put them in the comments of this video. You can also ask them in our Facebook group, Train Your Service Dog with Confidence, and I will make sure all of those links do end up in the description here so that you can find all the things that I've just referenced. Otherwise, I will see you guys hopefully on Tuesday, like I said, the 27th at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time, because we're going to be doing part 1 of our workshop. I'm really excited about this workshop. I think that it's loaded with tons of just game-changing information for owner trainers. But if you have any questions in the meantime, let us know. Otherwise, we will see you then. And like I said, make sure to hit that like button and share this video anywhere you think that owner trainers will find it helpful. I will see you guys later. Have a great day.